We're going to bring in our panel a little bit early to deal with the big news of this day. Let's bring them in. Byron York, chief political correspondent of the Washington Examiner. Josh Kraushaar, political editor for the National Review. And Matthew Continetti, editor-in-chief of the Washington Free Beacon. Gentlemen, thanks for coming in. Byron, your thoughts. It doesn't seem like this is any different than what was on the table a while ago.
It is not. This shutdown was over a border barrier. The president demanded that Congress had to give him money for the barrier or else he would keep the government shut. Now he's agreed to reopen the government without getting any money for the border barrier. So the short version is Pelosi won and Trump lost. Now, the White House, in its defense, says that they believe there are a number of Democrats on Capitol Hill who would actually approve money for a border barrier, and that's right. There really are such Democrats. But the leadership, Nancy Pelosi, has not changed her absolutely nothing for the wall position. She's not changed her position that walls are, quote, immoral. And by not giving an inch, she has just won. So it's not clear why the White House thinks that after winning, she would now start making concessions.
Josh, I apologize. I said National Review. It's National Journal, of course. Your thoughts on this day?
Well, look, the first rule of government shutdowns is you can never hold the government hostage for any favored legislative priority. And Democrats learned it the hard way with DACA, and then they took the political blame earlier last year for trying to hold the government hostage because of DACA. And Republicans and President Trump are learning it because of border security. The national polls were really, really tough for the White House. 37% job approval, 50 disapproval in the mid to upper 50s. And all the national polls. In our Fox poll, Democrats had a 10-point advantage on border security. That hardly ever happens. So President Trump knew he had to fold, at least for now, and punt till the politics turned a little bit more favorably for Republicans.
Here are the Senate leaders, Democrat and Republican.
Democrats are against the wall, but we agree on many things, such as the need for new technology and the need to strengthen security at our ports of entry. And that bodes well for coming to an eventual agreement.
The days ahead will tell us whether our Democratic colleagues are actually serious about securing our nation, whether they actually mean what they say.
So the question, Matthew, is whether the base, the president's base, is really turned off by this move by the president. The pressure obviously had gotten to a very high point.
That's right. President Trump has to both worry about his base and worry about the rest of the country. And there was the rest of the country, I think, that had turned against him on the shutdown, that was against the wall. When you ask them just directly, are you for the wall? Most Americans are against that. And so President Trump was fighting against the most powerful force in American politics. It's not Nancy Pelosi, it's public opinion. But I think the White House should look at this as an opportunity, Brett, to really kind of begin to turn the ship around and head toward re-election in 2020. There is a deal to be made, and even though Schumer is adamantly against the wall, Pelosi in her press conference today actually was very vague about what might be included in this deal from the conference committee. There's the opportunity, I think, to get some of these freshman Democrats who came to Washington with their voters expecting them to solve problems to back some type of barrier. It might not be the wall of President Trump's dreams, but all he needs is a little bit in order to please his constituents heading into re-election.
Right. So, Byron, is the immediate win Nancy Pelosi's? Is the potential for a long-term win on border security for the president and the administration? There is still that possibility. It is possible that without the pressure of the government being shut down and all the problems that caused, without that pressure, perhaps people could take a more sober look at the president's last proposal, which, in addition to money for a border barrier, included all sorts of things that both party likes: more technology to detect drugs at ports of entry, humanitarian aid, more beds at the detention centers, more immigration judges, all the sorts of things that were part of a package that both parties in the past, prior to Trump, would actually support, and that would include a physical barrier at the border, always part of that. So perhaps it's possible that when all the craziness of the shutdown is over, people could take another look at that proposal. Josh, we're hearing from our producer up on Capitol Hill, Chad Pergram, that too soon to do the State of the Union on Tuesday, they believe, but they're floating February 5th. Clearly, the president wanted to deliver the State of the Union address in the House chamber with all the pomp and circumstance.
Look, the State of the Union, whenever it's scheduled, is going to be President Trump's opportunity to get some political momentum back. And to Byron's point, Republicans win the immigration argument when it's broadly about border security. It's when Trump kind of got caught up in the wall, we need to have this for the wall, that really put him and the Republicans in Congress in a corner. And even he backed off from that, saying it was really just for steel slats or for a combination of border security measures. Trump needs to reset his immigration agenda, his border security agenda with the State of the Union. But he has to think more broadly. He can't just be speaking to the 30%, 35% base. He has to look at the broad majority of the country that does want solid border enforcement.
In the meantime, Matthew, Democrats are relishing the fact that they're tweaking the president with Nancy Pelosi suggesting that she's the big winner here. You have Representative Karen Bass tweeting out that Speaker Pelosi should give the State of the Union address since she's obviously the one running the country.
Well, Karen Bass is wrong. The president is still the president. He has all the powers of the office. You look at some of the things he's done on foreign policy, for example. You see the immense power of the presidency. Nancy Pelosi is an extremely savvy legislator. She knew she had a winning hand, especially when President Trump in December said that he would take the credit or blame if the government shut down. Well, that's what happened, and the public listened to President Trump, and they blamed him. But now I think it's an opportunity to try to not only reset the immigration debate, as Josh said, but to really start thinking seriously and strategically about what it will take to expand his support to win him re-election in 2020.
All right, gentlemen, thank you. We'll see you later in the show.
Senator Elizabeth Warren announcing a new wealth tax on the ultra-rich. This is her idea, campaign idea, which would be 2% added on top for Americans with more than $50 million in assets. Warren saying in a fundraising push, quote, "A lot of rich and powerful people won't like it, but I don't work for them." A new Fox poll shows that many Democrats think that socialism is a good thing. 40% say they think socialism is a good thing. 34% said that it was a bad thing. Here now, Chris Stirewalt, Fox News politics editor, and Wendy Osefo, a political and social justice commentator. Good to have both of you with us. Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
Wendy, let me start with you. What does that number say to you? Do you find that number disturbing, or do you think it's something that's a good place for Democrats to look when they're putting together their policies for 2020?
Well, I think that Venezuela, North Korea, even China has shown us that socialism is not necessarily the way to go. But what people are looking for is the utopian ideologies that underlie socialism. That is, they want that, human beings don't want for anything, and that we have equality. And I think that that's what Warren is trying to say here. Her approach may not necessarily be the best, but a Gallup poll also showed that, most millennials don't even know what socialism really is. So I think that that's another issue here, is that when people are talking about socialism, they're thinking about the ideologies that speak to it, but not necessarily what it will take and how it could turn a government on its head. But what cannot be lost in the conversation is the fact that when we have individuals who are not making any money and then others who are billionaires, and that is a problem, especially in our great nation, which is supposed to be the leader. So that is the biggest issue.
I think it's an interesting point. I think a lot of people on all sides of the fence agree that income disparity and how exaggerated it has become is probably not a great thing, but that's a long way away, Chris Stirewalt, from deconstructing capitalism and the economy that has been so prosperous for the United States and exchanging it for something that looks like Venezuela, which frankly looks a lot worse than not so good. It looks disastrous and catastrophic.
Right. Now, what Warren is proposing would be very popular with the general electorate.
Absolutely.
A big tax on very rich people is always popular.
Over $50 million.
Over $50 million, they like it. And guess what our poll also found is that when you get over about $250,000, tax increases on the wealthy get quite popular. Remember, Donald Trump got elected president because he was a populist. The energy in the country right now is populist energy. It's eat the rich. It's against entrenched, powerful people. Elizabeth Warren's trying to get in on that. However, and this is the real danger that Democrats face now, if they allow their party, no matter who the nominee is, I don't think they're going to nominate Elizabeth Warren, but if whoever the survivor is.
Who do you think they're going to nominate, Chris?
I'd say the
Kamala
one to beat
Harris.
right now, is Kamala Harris is the one to beat right now. But for Democrats, if they're branded, if the eventual nominee is branded as a socialist or branded in this way, if they allow the Republicans and Donald Trump to define them as that, then they got no shot because they need to make the election about Trump.
Yeah, let's put up the people that are declared so far and the people who have announced exploratory committees. I think it's very interesting that the two of you both said Kamala Harris is the one to beat here. Wendy, why do you say that?
I think Kamala Harris brings a new, fresh set of energy to the Democratic Party. I think that she speaks to all of the marginalized populations that Donald Trump has just really outed during his presidency. She is a daughter of immigrants. She's a female. She's a minority. She just speaks to so much of what people need right now in that new energy. I do think that some people have touted a Biden-Harris ticket and what that will look like. I will actually flip that on its head and say a Harris-Biden ticket, where Harris is the president and Biden is the VP.
But he's done it before. He knows how to do that job.
Absolutely. And not to mention, she's my sorority sister. So, she has everything that we need to be the president of the United States of America.
5 seconds, Chris. Quick thought.
Happy Friday. Glad to be with you.
All right. Thanks, you guys. Good to see you both.